the largest container port in Europe, but the entire logistics corridor stretching from Rotterdam to Brabant, Breda, and Fresh Park Venlo on the German border is one big logistics cluster. Holland is also held by tradition of trade going back to the East India Company, which was the first multinational company operating thousands of ships in worldwide trade. The third example is local, Zaragoza. Plaza is the largest logistics park in Europe. You're all familiar with it. Geographically, it is nearly equidistant from Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, and Bilbao, and it is an inland port between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. The Aragon logistics cluster, however, is more extensive than just Plaza. It includes facilities in Teruel, Huesca, and Fraga, in addition to related private development. As an aside, the development of Plaza is also a great example of how leaders from all parts of society, community government, city government, opposition, labor industry, and academia can rise to tackle a common challenge. The fourth example is Memphis. Federal Express move to Memphis has cemented the city's role as U.S. logistics center. Memphis' geography and climate are central to its role as the biggest cargo airport in the world. But Memphis also is a major railroad center. All 5 U.S. Class 1 railroads have facilities there. It is home to over 400 trucking companies and a river port on the Mississippi River. Thus, Memphis is a quadra-mode logistic cluster. The city was built based on trading tradition, mainly of cotton. The cotton trade tied Memphis to northern industry so much so that many in Memphis did not want to secede from the Union at the beginning of the American Civil War. The fifth example is Panama. The Isthmus has been a trading route for many years, first by way of the Camino Real land route, which opened around 1530, then by the railroad, which opened in 1855, and then by the Panama Canal, which opened in 1914. Today, there are marine terminals at both Atlantic and the Pacific sides of the canal, and the Panamanian government program calls for development of several logistics parks along the canal, transforming Panama into a hub of value-added logistics activity. The last example is Chicago. It has developed into a trading hub thanks in large part to its location at the edge of the Great Lakes. The railroads were developed to connect the lake's shipping lanes to the west, thus connecting the U.S. East Coast to the U.S. hinterland. The Eastern Railroad then followed, making Chicago a railroad hub, and an inland port and a huge logistics cluster. Today, Chicago is still home to the Commodities Exchange and the largest inland port in the world. As evident from this example, in many cases, logistics clusters grow around major transportation hubs, ports, airports, significant intersection, and rail hubs. Transportation hubs are used for cargo transshipment, in many cases between transportation nodes, as well as for consolidation activities. Anyone who ever changed a plane at a hub airport is familiar with the role of hubs in transportation networks. Let's talk about the operational advantage of logistics clusters. The operational advantage can be classified into 2 categories: transportation advantage and asset sharing. The transportation advantage of a logistics park includes scope, scale, density, and frequency of transportation services in and out of a logistics cluster. The first one is economies of scope. Logistics clusters present opportunities for balanced movement in and out of the cluster, avoiding equipment idle time and empty repositioning. Economies of scale, because more logistics activity in a cluster create higher freight volumes in and out of the cluster, allowing transportation carrier to use larger conveyances, getting higher utilization, leading to lower cost. Economies of density, as the density of company in the park grows, pickup and delivery operation are becoming more efficient. Economies of frequency, as the volume of freight in and out of the cluster grows, company can schedule higher frequency departure and arrival, increasing the level of service enjoyed by the cluster habitant. All these phenomena create a positive feedback loop. The more companies that join the cluster, the lower the transportation cost, the better the level of service, which makes transportation become more efficient, and even more companies join the park. Cluster participants also enjoy the ability to share resources, be their equipment or employee. The need for flexible resource sharing is rooted in the variability of product flows, both in the short term and the long term. The opportunity for sharing is due to the fact that resources used in warehousing and transportation, be they equipment or labor, are not specific to each company's operation and can therefore be shared relatively easily by companies in the cluster. As more companies join, sharing opportunities increase, making the cluster even more valuable. Let's now talk about value-added activities in a cluster beyond transportation and warehousing. Few examples. A company called Mallory Alexander International processes order in Memphis for 1-800 flowers. This is very relevant for Monday, for all you men. Every night, the company accepts shipments of flour from hundreds of growers throughout Latin America. The flowers are then arranged into bouquet as ordered online and on the telephone by customer. An order anywhere in the US in the evening will reach the customer anywhere in the US at 8:30 the next morning. Flextronics, another company in Memphis, processes every night 5,000 laptop computers in need of repair. A faulty laptop can be dropped by 8 p.m. at a FedEx station anywhere in the US. By early following morning, it will be in Flextronics, where technicians will diagnose the problem and fix it. By the end of the day, about 18 hours later, most laptops will be repaired and sent back to be delivered the next morning to their owners, less than 36 hours after being dropped off. Another example is Medtronics. Medtronics has a distribution center in Memphis and keeps spinal kits used by hospitals for spinal procedures. The kit can cost more than $120,000, and hospitals cannot afford to stock them until they need them. Furthermore, in any surgical procedure, only a small part of a kit is actually used. So when a doctor meets his patient on Wednesday evening in Boston, she can schedule a surgery for Thursday noon. Medtronic will put a kit on a FedEx flight by midnight Wednesday. It will arrive at Boston Thursday morning and available to the surgeons immediately. After the surgery, the unused part of the kit are sent back to Memphis in order to be cleaned, refurbished, and ready for the next case. Furthermore, in case of an emergency operation following, for example, an accident, Medtronic uses Next Flight Out utilizing Delta Airline, which also has a hub in Memphis. In this case, Medtronic employee places a package with the crew on the next flight from Memphis to Boston. There are several flights a day. And a Boston hospital employee will pick up the package at the Delta counter in Boston, rushing it to the operating theater. Naturally, using tracking services, Medtronic can send a kit overnight to any hospital within 600 miles of Memphis, a radius encompassing 152 metropolitan area. Final example, again, relevant for Valentine's Day, is Vermont teddy bears. In the 3 days before Valentine's Day, it's this weekend, the volume of customized, personalized teddy bears grow from 100 to 200 a week to over 100,000 a day. UPS Supply Chain Solution runs a logistics park in Louisville, Kentucky. This weekend, every operation in the park will have to send part of its workforce and allocate part of its capacity to make sure that every lover will have a customized teddy bear. These are a few examples of the value-added operations that rely on high level of service offered around logistic clusters, leading to value-added activity involving more employment and higher economic activity. Let me talk about something that we all care about jobs. Many local governments chase knowledge-based industries. Many of these industries, however, create a relatively small number of jobs, and often only for very high-skilled workers who are also very mobile, creating long-term vulnerability. Logistic clusters typically offer a large number of jobs, both skilled and unskilled. The traditional criticism that logistics jobs involve just moving boxes at minimum wage is an outdated view of the industry, which misses many benefits of logistics-related jobs. In addition to low-level manual jobs, sorting and picking, the industry includes the following. It includes many part-time jobs. For example, at UPS, not only there are about 200,000 students working part-time, with college being paid by UPS, many of these part-time workers end up working and growing to be executives at UPS. The industry, of course, offers professional jobs. Many jobs in the industry involve operation of machinery ranging from trucks to forklifts to airplanes, trains, and ships, and sophisticated robotic equipment. The logistics industry is one of the largest users of sophisticated information and communication technology. The industry information technology sophistication comes from the need to control millions of moving items and thousands of conveyances in real time in order to achieve minimum cost and maximum service. For example, every year, UPS spends 4 times as much on information technology annually as it does on buying trucks, raising the question whether UPS is really a trucking company or an information technology company. Finally, of course, there are executive jobs. As with any industry requiring oversight of tens of thousands of employees, there are many managerial and executive jobs associated with logistics operations. Let me talk now about the economic impact of logistics activities. One of the few logistics clusters that has kept meticulous accounting of the cost and benefit of the project is the Alliance Global Hub near Fort Worth, Texas. Alliance broke ground in 1990, and by 2008 had not only 3 million square meters of distribution space, but also privately built airport. The project has already generated 28,000 logistics jobs as well as 63,000 indirect jobs. Total economic impact has been estimated at $36 billion. The public investment of $387 million generated 11% return to 2008 based only on the taxes paid. This graph actually showed the taxes paid to the various counties and public agencies around Fort Worth and how much they were getting back just in taxes in return. As I mentioned, the return through 2008 was 11%. If the current trend continues, it will be 19% return. So following my current research, my next book will answer why logistics cluster contributes so much to economic growth and how can local companies encourage their formation and development. Let me close by thanking again the University of Zaragoza for bestowing on me this honor, and thank you all for coming. I would like to end, however, with special thanks to the person who is more than anybody responsible for my success. My wife of 42 years, Anat, is sitting right there. Thank you very much.
Señor consejero de Ciencia, Tecnología y Universidad y señor delegado del Gobierno, señora ex consejera de Ciencia, Tecnología y Universidad, quisiera ahora mencionar en primer lugar a los doctores, recientes doctores, Honoris Causa de nuestra universidad, el profesor Valero y el profesor Yossi Sheffi. Felicidades, enhorabuena, bienvenidos a este claustro. Felicidades por las intervenciones tan sugerentes, la de la biografía del profesor Valero, cargada de emotividad para todos los habitantes de esta tierra y de esta universidad, cargada de racionalidad en lo que se refiere a la investigación, y del profesor Sheffi, hablando de los clústeres, la influencia de los clústeres en el desarrollo económico, citando a Plaza como uno de ellos, incidiendo en la importancia de la logística y el transporte en la productividad y en el mercado actual. Muchas gracias a los padrinos de uno y otro. Muchas gracias, pero yo quisiera hacer una mención particular del recuerdo planteado del profesor Sáez Lorenzo. Hubiera sido padrino en esta ceremonia. Un recuerdo a sus familiares, a sus hijos, a su hermano, aquí presente. Tenemos todos en el corazón vivo el recuerdo del profesor Sáez Lorenzo. Aún más hoy, hablando de supercomputación, como hemos hablado y como a él le hubiera gustado hablar y escuchar en relación con el profesor Valero y su colaboración con el Instituto de Biocomputación y Física de Sistemas Complejos. Mi saludo a todos los familiares del profesor Valero, a su esposa e hijos, a su madre, a su madrina, a tantos amigos que están aquí, al alcalde de Alfamén, a la Corporación Municipal de Alfamén y a las otras corporaciones o alcaldes de la comarca de Cariñena. Muchas gracias por haber cuidado de Mateo. Muchas gracias por haberle hecho crecer. Muchas gracias por haberle impulsado a que se mueva a Barcelona. Sí, muchas gracias, porque como él ha dicho bien, la ciencia se hace entre todos y la presencia del supercomputador que dirige el profesor Valero, la acción en supercomputación del profesor Valero en toda España es útil, es buena para todos y lo es para la ciencia en Zaragoza. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Mrs. Yossi, for coming and staying with us today. And my congratulations to the friends of Professor Yossi present here in this academic session. Queridas autoridades civiles que estáis aquí con nosotros, muchos compañeros del Gobierno de Aragón, autoridades militares, el director de la Academia General de Logística, Profesor Yossi, the Military Academy for Logistics, present here, close to Zaragoza. The General Director is present here with us. Autoridades académicas, muy particularmente rectora de la Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, que ha venido a acompañar a su colega y amigo Mateo Valero, a los vicerrectores de nuestra universidad y a aquellos vicerrectores y autoridades académicas que procedéis pues, de diversas universidades españolas que queréis acompañar a Mateo Valero en este acto. Muchas gracias por vuestra presencia. Señor defensor universitario, señor presidente del Consejo Social, señoras, señores, todos los que nos acompañáis hoy, sabed que hoy es un día importante para la Universidad de Zaragoza. Es un día importante porque recibimos a dos científicos relevantes, cada uno de ellos en sus ámbitos, en la computación o en la logística y el transporte, científicos que mantienen una vinculación entrañable y apreciada por la Universidad de Zaragoza, muy entrañable y muy apreciada. Hoy hacemos formalmente la incorporación de estos dos profesores, Valero y Sheffi, los incorporamos a nuestro claustro de doctores. Ya ha quedado claro cómo el profesor Valero es una referencia en supercomputación en España y en Europa, cómo es el director del supercomputador Mare Nostrum y de la Red Española de Supercomputación. Su trabajo es reconocido en todo el mundo como un impulsor de la supercomputación en Europa. Ha quedado claro que Mateo Valero es de Alfamén. Ha quedado claro su colaboración con el instituto conocido coloquialmente como BIFI y con el Departamento de Informática de Informática e Ingeniería de Sistemas. Profesor Valero, en realidad ya lo sentíamos como nuestro y yo creo que el profesor Valero sentía también esta universidad como suya. Hoy es como si subrayáramos el premio Aragón que recibió hace, creo recordar, que unos 3 años, y lo subrayamos y formalizamos el que el profesor Valero es, por causa de honor, doctor de nuestra universidad. Muchas gracias, profesor Valero, por haber aceptado. Es un honor para nosotros tenerte formalmente, que teníamos ya, tenerte formalmente en nuestra academia, en nuestro claustro de doctores. Bien. I thought to have the last words in English, Professor Sheffi, but I have decided to do it in Spanish. Let me say why. Because I prefer our friends, the gentlemen and ladies present here, to hear from you in Spanish. And I can repeat it later in English to you and your wife. Okay? El profesor Yossi Sheffi es una referencia mundial en logística. Él procede, como ha quedado claro, del Instituto de Tecnología de Massachusetts. Pero tengo que decir que desde este instituto, conocido como MIT en sus siglas, pues desde este instituto el profesor Sheffi es una referencia mundial en todo el mundo, en Asia, en América, en Europa, en África, en todos los sitios donde existe un interés por la logística y el transporte, por la formación superior en logística y transporte, el profesor Yossi Sheffi es una referencia. Yo tuve la oportunidad de conocer al profesor Sheffi en Cambridge y cuando le conocí enseguida me di cuenta de que su presencia, su colaboración con Zaragoza podía hacer de esta ciudad una referencia mundial en la formación especializada internacional de logística en el mundo. Y así ha sido. El entonces consejero de Economía, profesor Vandrés, puso el impulso necesario para hacerlo. Y tengo que decir que el presidente de la comunidad, puso la convicción de hacerlo. Entre ellos, y con muchos más, muchos presentes aquí, otros no, el Gobierno de Aragón formó, junto con la Universidad de Zaragoza y el MIT, el ZLC, el Centro Logístico de Zaragoza. El Centro Logístico de Zaragoza es, sin lugar a duda, referencia mundial en la formación de logística. Yo estoy muy satisfecho de poder haber otorgado hoy este grado de doctor honoris causa al profesor Sheffi. Desde que lo conocí, siento un gran respeto y aprecio por él, que no he perdido a lo largo de los años. Pienso que el profesor Sheffi es un símbolo de lo que es la formación logística en Zaragoza. Y también creo y deseo que sea un símbolo de la colaboración entre el MIT, el Instituto de Tecnología de Massachusetts, y la Universidad de Zaragoza. Los doctores honoris causa de nuestra universidad no lo son por un día. Los doctores honoris causa de nuestra universidad lo son para toda la vida, para toda la vida. You are not doctor honoris causa of this university for a day, but for a lifetime. Y espero que estos doctorados honoris causa del profesor Valero y del profesor Sheffi sean de beneficio mutuo, sea de mutuo trabajo, sea una manera de felicitarnos por los que hemos hecho juntos y una manera de apostar por el trabajo conjunto en el futuro. A ambos dos y a todos ustedes, muchísimas gracias. Y puestos hoy en pie, vamos a oír el Gaudeamus Igitur.